Hi all. Most of the JavaScript or React, Angular, Vue.js applications are now using these drag and drop options. So to make more interactive and more appealing, they are trying for drag and drop options. So how actually we can implement drag and drop options? For example, if you see, we should able to drag one of the uh, element from one end to another end, or vice versa. You may need to do this kind of approaches. So these kind of things we can do it by simply using JavaScript. You need not to follow any external libraries or anything. The simplified work can be done happily in the JavaScript, and the same thing can should be applied in the React as well, or any in that case any other framework or library in that case. So my interest is, what are the minimum things what we need to implement the drag and drop facility. So first of all, by default, none of the HTML elements are draggable basically. Okay, here in this case it is not draggable. You can observe here. So to make these elements draggable, what I'm trying to do is, I'll apply an attribute called draggable is true. So immediately all these elements are now behaving so draggable. Do you observe this? These are all now draggable elements. Of course, they are not allowed to add into another list. We'll make it. That is our agenda for this video. So now, how shall we make this possible? Draggable elements which can be dragged and dropped on the other place. So this process is called dragging. In this dragging, you should be able to set one important point, which particular element is getting dragged. And whenever we dropped on the other side of the list, for example, here, when we are dragging, we should able to maintain what is the ID of the element we are dragging. And once we dropped, it should be able to collect that ID from the event, and then it should be added into this other list. So how shall we perform this particular process? So first thing we should understand is on drag. So let me write down for all the options on drag start. We are going to call handle drag, which generates, of course, event object. We need that event object very badly. Okay, so here I am implementing function handle drag with event object which is coming in, and that in that event object we have a property called data transfer. In that data transfer we have to set the data with a unique name with the respective ID. So we want, whenever we drag a particular element, this function will be called. In that event object, we have the target element, and that element will have the ID. So first, what do I do is ev means the event object dot date data transfer dot set data with some unique ID, okay, transfer ID or element ID, EID, or some ID. This is just a name, a variable, like parameter name, and the ID is required. EV dot target dot ID. So that event is now set with the data called EID, which is very important. And this particular, where you are dropping, we are going to drop on this particular UL. So by default, none of the HTML elements is allowed to drag. So by default, this drag will be cancelled. So we have to stop that default event. So for that, on drag over, I will take the event object and stop the default action, that is prevent default. So this work should be done so that it will be allowed to drag and drop. And then on drop, because this is dropping, right? We drag from one list and we drop it into another list. So on drop, will write like handle drop. We need that event. So here I am defining one more time function handle drop with event object. Now I would like to show you first of all what is that event object is having. So here I'll open the console. When I drag, I'll open the console, and when I drag the element and I drop it, something is EV. Okay. Okay. Here, while we are handle drop, we have to send that event object. So that can be accessed. Okay. Now, when I drop that particular element, here you have the data transfer. So here, of course, you are unable to see the ID anywhere, whatever the data we have transferred, but we have a method called get data. By calling that get data, it will give you the data what we have set over here. So EV dot data transfer dot get data of EID gives you the exact ID what we have dropped. This is P4, which is important, right? If you drag Virat Kohli, it gave me P2. We got the ID. So that ID has to be used to fetch that particular element, and we add it over here. So here what I'll do is we need the element. So document dot get element by ID of EV dot. So this gives you the ID, and from that ID we will find out the element, and that element will be added into this particular UL. So for this, again, we need another ID for this UL. We are not adding into the list. We are list item. We are adding into the list. So we are writing it here ID as selected players. I think I don't think. Sorry. You don't even need this ID because this EV, that event itself, have the target element. So I'll make use of the target element directly. We don't need this. EV dot target dot. No, wait a minute. Target will give you the UL, then append child of year. So now if you see, Jaiswal gets added, Virat Kohli got added, Sundar got added. So as simple as this is the simplest way of doing drag and drop feature in any JavaScript application. Even if it is a React application, you can follow the same thing, but there you have to update the state and all. Anyways, first of all, let me show you an interesting problem here. So if you open the elements in the second division, you can find out these list items are created properly. But if I drag somebody like anybody in another element, of course, here, if you observe, this Siraj got added in this list item added inside the Sundar list item. So if I try to move Sundar, this Siraj is also coming back. Can you see this? Sundar is also coming back. It is going to be a problem, right? So here you just need to apply a small condition. Before appending the child, we need to write some if else condition. So if you're trying to drop in a list item, then ev dot target dot tag name is equal to li. Of course, triple equality must be used. If it is li, that means if you are trying to drop it in the li, don't drop it in the li, drop it in ev dot target dot parent element. Drop it in the parent element always. If it is an li, parent element dot append child of what? El. Else, as usual, ev dot target dot append child of el. So now if I drag the people, they are well and good. Now, if you properly see, this newly added element will never be added into the sub list of any other list item. So if you follow these precautions, you can make use of this particular drag and drop facility by simple. I have not used any more number of things. There are two attributes over here and there are two attributes over here. It will be completed. And one more thing. Suppose if you want to drop back Virat Kohli, because I have, you can do that still. Because, okay, it is happily doing it. Let me run the code. Yeah. So we can do it both the ways. Hope you like the video. For more details, for more in-depth details of this kind of training, I would like to have you in my classes. Join our class and enjoy the complete end-to-end JavaScript and React application development. Thank you.